Hello and welcome to this channel, everybody. This is the Eradicator, and in today's video we are going to talk about Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. We are actually going to break down the 4 new civilizations that have been announced for the Definitive Edition of Age of Empires 2. Here we're talking about the Lithuanians, the Tatars, the Cumans, and the Bulgarians. 4 interesting civilizations indeed, which had their hour of glory or demise during the time period that is covered by Age of Empires 2, which is basically the Middle Ages. So here we're mostly talking about between the 11th to the 14th century. And I want to start here with the first civilization I will be talking about here, the Cumans. So the Cumans are a nomadic tribe, so expect to have some gameplay similar to what we're having with the Huns here, except that the Cumans come from an area that is further east than the Huns, an area that would be basically the equivalent of today's Ukraine to today's Xinjiang on the west side of China, as you can see here on the map. Now, the problem with the Cumans is that they were a nomadic group which did not really have an actual state, more like tribes. And so that's why I believe that in the game, probably it's possible to speculate that they are going to be on the losing side, perhaps, of the Tatars campaign. That's what I believe here, because we're only going to have 3 new campaigns, but we're going to have 4 new civilizations. So I believe that this is going to be the civilization that is not going to have any new campaigns, but for good reasons, I believe. Now, for those of you who are familiar with with Kingdom Come Deliverance, you may remember the Cumans, because eventually the Cumans, because of all of their defeats and the fact that they were chased from one place to another, they eventually ended up settling. They stopped their nomadic ways and they ended up settling and assimilating to the new countries that they went to. Eventually, some of them ended up in Hungary, and those are the ones that you are seeing when you are playing Kingdom Come Deliverance. So I think that's quite exciting to actually see the Cumans, to have the Cumans featured in another game right here in the Age of Empires 2, where, in my opinion, they rightfully belong, especially if we have new campaigns that are based on either Eastern Europe or Western Asia. So a pretty cool choice here by Forgotten Empires. Now, the next civilization we're going to talk about here are the Bulgarians, and I also believe that this is a great addition to the game. A civilization that was indeed missing from the game, and that played quite a significant role in the Near East as well as in Eastern Europe. Now, the Bulgarians really had their peak throughout the 12th to the 14th century, where they actually had their own empire, which rivaled the Byzantine Empire. They actually got their independence from the Byzantines, and eventually fought them, conquered some part of the Peloponnese, went very close to Anatolia, even though did not get there. They stayed around Thrace, but still were quite a threat to the Byzantines. And I would not be surprised if, during the Bulgarian campaign, the Byzantines would be the enemies that we would have to defeat here. We could expect also some brand new architecture from the Bulgarians that we can see here on these pictures that I've found for you. Some of the pictures of churches here or castles, looking quite different from anything we're having, and I have no doubt that in order to reproduce historical fidelity, I have no doubt that Forgotten Studios are going to do their best here to bring us some brand new architecture for this new civilization. So yeah, a great choice again by Forgotten Empire. The Bulgarians, I can't wait to try out whether new units are going to be. I cannot wait to find out who their heroes are going to be. This is going to be a very exciting campaign, especially I really love the Byzantines, anything related to them. I prefer to play with Tatars, but I guess we're going to have to play against them. This is going to be a great way to train ourselves to counter Byzantine units. So yeah, awesome. The next civilization here are the Tatars. So interestingly, the Tatars still exist, even though we don't hear much of them. They are actually a population, a civilization that is still present, as you can see right here in southwestern Russia, mostly of south-central Russia. That's where they're located, but they originated from the Golden Horde, which was one of these kingdom that split from the great Mongolian Empire of Genghis Khan. Eventually, that great Mongolian Empire split into smaller empires. The Golden Horde was one of them, located on the western side of it. They themselves eventually dislocated into smaller kingdoms that eventually disappeared because they were beaten by these Western European countries. But nonetheless, still a big threat to these Eastern Europeans. Civilizations. Probably we're going to fight for the perennity of the Golden Horde, making sure the Golden Horde is going to survive for the next couple of 100 years until eventually it disappears. But that's probably not going to be part of the campaign. You know, all empires come to an end, right? But yeah, the Golden Horde, not the Golden Horde, the Tatars. I'm not sure if we're going to play as the Golden Hordes. You know, when we play the Tatars, but they definitely come with their own architecture. Their architecture looks actually pretty interesting. Some of these older buildings where the Tatars still live nowadays have survived, as you can see here on this picture. They have this square-ish front with these beautiful turquoise or light blue domes that we can see, and it's interesting to see that we could actually see this type of architecture reproduced in some of the screenshots that have been revealed to us since the announcement of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. And look at that on that picture here. With this, we actually have almost the same type of mosque, maybe, because I think they're a Muslim, if I'm correct, right in the middle of that screenshot. But it seems that this kind of blue dome is being reproduced to most buildings around. So this is definitely going to bring some elements of exotism. This is going to feel quite exotic and different from some of the other civilizations that we will be playing here in Age of Empires 2. So this is definitely one of the civilizations I'm the most excited about with this expansion, and definitely I've always liked anything related to the Mongolians, and definitely especially how they disappeared or how they vanished or how they become less powerful or became overpowered by other civilizations. So I cannot wait to see what Forgotten Empire have made for us in order to discover that history. That definitely is not something that we learn at school. So yeah, awesome. Now, the last civilization that we're going to have in this expansion are the Lithuanians. Now, the Lithuanians are actually a distinct civilization from the Baltic region. They're not Slavic people. They're not Slavs. This is actually a mistake that I made before. I thought that they were Slavs, but actually I was wrong. They are their own civilization, and this actually really makes sense to get them in Age of Empires 2. And it turns out that Lithuania, for quite a long time in Europe, was actually the largest country of Europe in terms of superficie. So that is something that counts, something that should not be forgotten or discounted right here. And they originate from the original region, from the region that is actually Lithuania right now, but they expanded southeast all the way down to the edges of Crimea, as you can see on this map here. And I really believe that this is what the Lithuanian campaign is going to be all about. And you can see here, right here on this map, if you look at the southeast, we see a Crimean Khanate, or Khanate, I don't know how to say that in English, but a Khanate, basically, these are these kingdoms, these states, that originated from the old Mongolian Empire that eventually split in smaller portions. So this is one of the remains of the Mongolian Empire, perhaps one of the last remains of the Golden Horde, I would say. And this is probably where, and that's why I put them here at the end, because this expansion is called Last Khans, and this is probably where the last campaign is going to end. The last campaign, in my opinion, is going to be about the Lithuanians, who are going to exterminate the Last Khans and basically end this Mongolian intrusion once and for all. So that's what I believe. That's what I believe is going to happen. The Lithuanians expect them to have some architecture that is going to be similar to the Slavs. So perhaps they are going to share their architecture with the Slavs, or they are going to have their own architecture, as we still don't really know about that. Now, interestingly, for those who are not very familiar about what happened to them, eventually they merged with their neighbors, Poland, to become the Commonwealth. Interestingly, the Commonwealth the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was actually one of the earliest democracies in Europe. It's actually it was not really a democracy as of right now, where people imagine that people decide. It was more like a noble democracy. If you were a noble, then you would have a say. But it was absolutely not authoritarian, and it actually distinguished itself by that political regime from the rest of the European powers. It was considered to be a European superpower back in these days. The also interesting thing is that they elected their kings. So they didn't have. You wouldn't be the king from father to son. Once the king died, then another king would be elected. You could also be fired if you were doing a bad job as a king. You could lose your position. So I think that it was actually quite a very modern state. From our own perspective of the 21st century, or at least ahead of their time. But anyway, that's all for this Age of Empires 2 Civilizations from the Definitive Edition. Tell me what you guys think. Are you excited about these new campaigns and these new civilizations? I certainly am. That's why I'm making this long video today about that. But tell me in the comments down below which one's your favorite. Which one do you think I'm going to play the most? As far as I'm concerned, I usually play random, so I don't really care about who I'm playing. But I will probably be most excited about the Tatars just for their architecture, which looks pretty awesome. Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, really excited. I cannot wait to get my hands off the beta if Microsoft selects me. I cannot wait to play this on Steam when it hits Steam in October. So that's it for this video.